Power is where people think power resides. Not a complete or quote per se, a paraphrase, but the gist is pretty accurate. People say, dude, you make me search for pop references, pop culture references. Game of Thrones, you don't have to search for it. And it's right. If people think power resides in a particular spot, just by definition of their perception to some degree, how they behave goes in line with the notion that power is in a particular spot. Whether it's power in the absolute sense of being able to enforce one's will is there or not. To some degree, it allows them to do just that. It's the reason why these guys tend to be peacocks, theater majors. They need to project. They need to get across their particular point of view in their framing of the world. And how they come across needs to get that across. It's kind of like at the EU the other day. Boris Johnson comes in and they applaud. Great deal, Prime Minister. They pat him on the back. Good job. Why? Because if they're looking in their soup, when the Prime Minister comes in, maybe it's not a good deal at all. I guess my point is they project what they're trying to get across because it is vitally important to them that you, at the very least, believe it. I have been told breathlessly, that Elizabeth Warren is leading. And yet, when I look at the Real Clear Politics average, Biden is 29.4, Warren is 23.4, and Sanders is 15.4. But Biden is several points above Warren. Now, don't misunderstand me. Warren has moved, and so has Biden. And they've been, in a certain direction. The media has been trying to shove Warren down everyone's throat. Whole hog, CNN, MSNBC, flattering, giving lavish, essentially attention, and a soft light. Again, MSNBC goes so far as to say supporting Sanders means almost by definition you're sexist. So it's not shocking that with that free campaign ads that mainstream media has been giving her, that she's been doing pretty well. Leading is something different. Now, again, also, these polls are subordinate to state polls because ultimately the contest is chosen in the states. And to be fair, Biden has said that they're willing to lose like 3 states in the beginning, like almost conceding those states, saying that we're going to win South Carolina, though, because those darkies are going to put me in office in South Carolina. Nevertheless, there's something that's true. That Biden, who, when he got into the campaign, was absolutely magnanimous. I'm above this fray. I am inevitable in a way that my other person in 2016 wasn't. And then he loses that inevitability, and I have no idea why he even thought he was. And not just loses it, is slammed relentlessly over and over again. Now you have an impeachment hearing where his son comes up and just outright corruption. And all of this stuff is being thrown at the wall at the exact same time. Elizabeth Warren is getting a soft light, and Sanders has had a heart attack. Biden, who was infinitely magnanimous at this point, is no longer magnanimous. And if you notice in the debate the other night, they're hitting Warren outright on a very specific point. Thanks, mainstream media. Because media has gotten across that Warren is the front runner. All of the other candidates attack Warren. So a form of blowback of sorts. Media is pushing their particular candidate. People attack the candidate to which they say power resides. Missing the point that Joe Biden, whatever you want to think of Joe Biden, at least by national polling, is still leading. But again, national polls are subordinate to state polls. Biden is no longer magnanimous, and Biden is hitting Elizabeth Warren in a very, very particular sore spot. One that this person has said is the way that Warren needs to be hit. Trust. The problem is that Sanders can never hit Warren in this way because he never brings this up. He never addresses her in this way. He never even makes a great distinction between who he is and who she is, which is why I asked at 3 a.m. between him and his God, does he really want to win the presidency? And it's very possible that he wants to win it in a particular way. Joe Biden, whatever you want to think of him, there's a politician in there, and he's been in politics for 40 years, and he might be somewhat out of it, but he is astute and aware enough to know, hey, they're saying that she might be able to stop me from becoming president, and I need to stop her first. And whatever the issues that Sanders has about going after Warren, Joe Biden does not have those issues in the least. He is being artful and very tactful, which is, I said, what you can do, but he is vetting her. And he is vetting her on one very specific point, the point that I continuously made: trust. How can we trust you? Now, I would wager, or at the very least, if they're doing due diligence, certain videos will come out given to certain media types that raise these into the press, talking about Warren's parents didn't elope. Again, hitting on this notion of trust. All of it is going to harken back and forth with certain resonance with the Medicare for All stuff in which they're hitting her on, and this other potential stuff that bubbles up. Joe Biden is no longer being magnanimous, and he is hitting Warren in her sore spot. Trust. You're not being honest. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, subscribe. I have no affiliation with the Real News Network. It just came to my mind when I saw the t-shirt. However, if you do dig this content, please consider supporting through PayPal or Patreon. This content is brought to you by you because all of these videos are demonetized. Yes, that is the way YouTube is rolling now. Trust. I want to talk about trust. Now, this is a sore spot, and it's a sore spot in a very particular way. I mean, Warren has been somewhat dishonest about her past. And if you can make an argument about she's been dishonest about her parents eloping, about being Native American, I would love for somebody on the stage to turn to Warren and said, look, be honest with me. If you had an ancestor that was African American, would you put African American on your bar license, and would you go around telling people that you're African American? I love that question. I love that question. Because that's effectively what she did with Native Americans. If she would not do that with African Americans, why is it okay with Native Americans? Nobody would ask her that. Maybe Biden would, since Biden is at this point taking off the gloves. Listen to what they're hitting her on and the resonance that this is taking among all of the candidates, because all of them are astute enough to realize that this is a sore spot for Warren. And if you can't be honest with the public, it looks bad. It looks like you're covering up something.
Is to have a plan for everything except this.
Medicare for all is the gold standard. We can pay for this. I've laid out the basic principles. Costs are going to go up for the wealthy. They're going to go up for big corporations. They will not go up for middle-class families.
At the end of the day, the overwhelming majority of people will save money on their health care bills. But I do think it is appropriate to acknowledge that taxes will go up.
At least Bernie's being honest here and saying how he's going to pay for this and that taxes are going to go up. And I'm sorry, Elizabeth, but you have not said that.
Everyone also agreed the president's troop withdrawal.
All of them are hitting her on that very specific point. You're not being honest. You're not being honest. You're not being candid. Why can't you be honest with the public? Now, here's the catch. The reason that Elizabeth Warren can't be honest with the public is because she doesn't have a health care plan. No one brings that up. I find it the weirdest thing in the world. Even in that exchange, she makes this kind of point of, look, this is the gold standard. But she's said on more than one occasion that there are multiple plans that she's okay with. Meaning that how can she tell you whether taxes will go up or not if she has no idea what the plan is going to be? Bernie Sanders is telling you, yes, taxes will go up because we have a specific Medicare for all bill. And for people who are making over $29,000, there will be a moderate increase in your taxes, but you will all essentially save money. The top 1% will pay more. He's honest. He's telling you exactly what's true because he has a very specific bill where he can compare it to. The other candidates also have specific bills to which they are tethering themselves to. Warren has not. And even Harry Reid says, yeah, she'll backtrack on Medicare for all. She's already backtracked on it. That's why she can't tell you taxes will go up. I hope you understand what I mean. They're attacking her as if she is for Medicare for all. All of them have to know that Warren is supporting multiple bills. However, They can pin her to this because you say you're for Medicare for all. So fair enough, be for Medicare for all. And we're going to attack Medicare for all. And you're not being honest about whether or not taxes will go up. Why aren't you being honest about it? Sanders is being honest. Why aren't you being honest? Well, the honest reason is because she doesn't have a health care bill. Sanders does. She's tethered herself to Medicare for all to float under Sanders' wing on this particular point and made people believe that these two are one-to-one. That's been her entire political strategy. Biden is bright enough to know to essentially try to strangle her with that political strategy, meaning if you're for Medicare for all, then say taxes will go up, because that's what will happen. And the fact that you don't want to say it is more of a reason for us to ask you the question, because everybody knows that if you're for Medicare for all, Bernie Sanders wrote the bill. He's saying it will go up. So why aren't you? The answer is because she's not for Medicare for all. And she has no health care bill. And so she has no idea whether taxes will go up or not. That's the honest to God truth. None of them say that, but that's true. I would love for somebody on stage one day to say, what is your health care plan? And is it possible that you can't answer the question of whether or not taxes will go up because you don't have a health care plan? She would have to say, if she's being honest, look, I am technically for Medicare for all. In theory, I'm not against that. And so I can argue for that. However, there are other plans that I'm okay with. And so, yes, I don't know that, but she won't answer it that way. That's too honest. Joe Biden, who is a politician in him still, even though it's muted and encased in 40 years or so, gets it. Listen to what he says.
Are you going to press her?
Well, yeah, look, it's fascinating that the person who has a plan for everything has no plan for the single most consequential issue in this election.
God, I love politics. I love politics. And I know I love the things that I think some other people hate about it. And that's true. But I'm not looking at it entirely as if I'm encased within the system. I'm looking at it as if I'm sitting outside of it and just people fighting for the things that they want. Warren has a plan for everything. That's a positive, right? Or is it? Especially when they keep using that as a term of derision. The fact that you have a plan for everything and you can't give us the specifics about this. It's using it as a hit point. They're using it as a derisive term. It's like someone used to call me professor. Now, I have no issue with that term at all. I love that term. However, he was using it as a term of derision, taking something that's positive and turning that shit into a negative. It's called politics. Boris Johnson does the exact same thing. It's fucking fascinating politics. But I'm going to rewind it. He's going after her for not being honest about whether or not taxes will go up. Because if you're telling the middle class that taxes will go up, then that's one thing. If you're trying to hide the ball, oh, that's something else. That's something else. It makes you look fundamentally dishonest. It's like you're hiding something. That's what all of them at this point have started to hit on. Elizabeth Warren can't be honest and candid about whether or not taxes will go up in Medicare for all. And if I'm being honest, at this point, she's becoming a dead weight on that subject. Meaning, yes, in the debate, she fights honestly on that subject well. And she can make all explanations and everything else well. And she augments Sanders' argument on that well. They argue it in slightly different ways, even though the resonance works. But if she can't answer that honestly, it makes her look dishonest on Medicare for all, which is something that I want to essentially, at the very least, having the people pushing for it to have clear intentions with it and not come across as fundamentally dishonest. Especially when she gets on a campaign stump and says things like, oh, it's just the framework and this stuff. It's not helpful.
Are you going to press her?
Well, yeah, look, it's fascinating that the person who has a plan for everything has no plan for the single most consequential issue in this election in the minds of the American people across the board. And you know, credibility matters. It matters. And the question that I think that Senator Warren is going to have to face, she's going to have to tell the truth or the question we raised about whether or not she's going to be candid and honest with the American people.
Now, in this moment, I hope you notice something. There's a slight transition that takes place. Elizabeth Warren is not being candid and honest about the most consequential issue in this election, meaning healthcare. Do you agree with Sanders and Medicare for all or not? Yay or nay? And if you can't tell the public that you're going to raise taxes under it. Now, Warren has handled this magnificently horribly. What she should have said was, under a Medicare for all system, taxes will be raised for the people above $29,000. However, the amount that they get back in savings, meaning answer the question, take control of the question, etc., but don't hide from the answer. Even if you make the caveat under a Medicare for all system, at the very least, you're depicting reality under that system. And Sanders has just said it. And if you're with Sanders, how do you answer that question in any other way? Especially if you have multiple healthcare plans. That answer allows you to hide within that fact that you may do something else, because your argument was under a Medicare for all system. I hope you understand the difference. What Joe Biden did here, though, was go from she's not being honest and candid on Medicare for all. Credibility matters when you're not being honest and candid, meaning he shifts it from Medicare for all to dishonesty just as an absolute. It changes on a dime. Listen to him. It's awesome. He's coherent here. Listen to him.
It matters. And the question that I think that Senator Warren is going to have to face, she's going to have to tell the truth, or the question we raised about whether or not she's going to be candid and honest with the American people. I mean, look, it's not, I don't want to pick on Elizabeth Warren, but this is.
The question is going to be raised, and is she just going to be candid and honest with the American people? It's honesty almost as an abstract, but it's going from she's not being honest here to honesty, just she's being fundamentally dishonest on this issue. She doesn't, or she's losing credibility. He's tying those two things together. It's not just dishonesty on this issue, it becomes dishonesty just in general. Fascinating politics. And notice, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't attack her in the gruff sense of the word. And what he's bringing up is legit and true. Warren needs to tell the American public whether or not she's going to raise taxes. Why is that a bad question? I understand this notion of savings, and that's a fair point. But you still have to answer that. And the problem is, before people vote you in office and even get you out of the primary, they should know what they're getting. Whatever you want to think of Biden, is he wrong here? Is he wrong? Yes. It's politics. Yes. Joe Biden is freaked out because he doesn't have any money, because an argument about electability is not something that drives people. Meaning, you coming out where people don't care about the policies you're putting out, they just want you to be Trump, is not the thing that gets people to give you money. It's just the thing that says, okay, in polling sense, we think he's more electable. He's running out of cash. He's desperate. He's coming off of Olympus to throw a punch because he has to throw a punch. But that doesn't necessarily mean that what he's saying is wrong. She has to be candid and honest with the public, not just on this issue, on a host of issues, including her past. She's being vetted. This is what vetting looks like. He's not being brutal. He's not being harsh. He's asking her, why can't you be honest about your healthcare plan? What is your healthcare plan? Are you going to raise taxes on the middle class? Even if there are savings, are you going to raise taxes on the middle class? Why is he wrong?
Look, it's fascinating that the person who has a plan for everything has no plan for the single most consequential issue in this election in the minds of the American people across the board. And you know, credibility matters. It matters. And the question that I think that Senator Warren is going to have to face, she's going to have to tell the truth, or the question we raised about whether or not she's going to be candid and honest with the American people. I mean, look, it's not, I don't know.
The question, God, I love that. I love that. You have no idea how much I love that. Yes, I am perfectly okay with using Biden as a weapon against Warren, especially since my guy, for moral reasons, ethical reasons, maybe even reasons that he would never disclose. Oh, I'm nearly 80 years old, man. Fuck, I have to do this every day. Maybe this is not what I want to do. I'm worn down. I don't know what's going on in his head. What I do know is he does not attack Warren. Joe Biden has no such biases. And mainstream media has essentially told Biden that his candidacy is in peril. His donors have told him his candidacy is in peril. His donations are in peril. And he needs to do something to get across to people that I am still in this race. I am still the front runner in this race. And I am going to chop down anybody that's going to get between me and winning the primary. You've just told that man that Warren is his competitor. And he is now trying to take the piss out of Warren. And what he has just said is a question about Medicare for all is transformed into a question on honesty as an absolute. Meaning, how can the American public trust you at all if you can't answer this question? Beautiful politics in regards to the wording. It's not brutal. It's not overt. Yeah, I like it. And by the way, it just so happens to be true. Even if it's Joe Biden that's giving the message. There's a little bit more. Let's let it finish.
Pick on Elizabeth Warren, but this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Sorry.
Are you going to press her?
He said it's ridiculous that this woman just can't tell the truth. Why is that not great politics? Why is that not awesome? In lieu of Bernie Sanders hitting Warren, I'll take it. Thank you, mainstream media. You've just told Joe Biden that Elizabeth Warren is the front runner, whether it's true or not. And it's very possible that it may be true in the various states. Biden, who wants to win, who wants to be president, even though I don't necessarily think he wants to do all this stuff and wants to put out policies and all that. However, does know politics. He's been doing it for 40 years. And whatever powers he has left at his disposal, he is going to aim them at Elizabeth Warren. Thank you, mainstream media. Like, share, subscribe. That's called Blowback. They were pushing for their person, and by pushing for their person to such an absurd degree, you've essentially increased the wrath of the various other candidates that are in the race. And they logically attack that person. Power is where people think power resides. And at this point, they think it resides with Warren. Ergo, Biden attacks Warren. This should be interesting. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.